It's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. City Clerk, please call roll.
Thank you, Council President. Mr. Greg David.
Present.
Present. Mr. Tyler Dean.
Here.
Miss Emily Hamburg.
Here.
Mr. Tom Schmitz.
Here.
And Mr. John Welch.
Present.
And you have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll have opening prayer with Pastor Gary Green from Gospel Assembly Church.
Always a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me. Let's all go to God the Father in prayer with bowed heads, please. Gracious Heavenly Father, we lift up your name tonight as hallowed, sacred. Your name is above every name. We humbly ask that now in a somewhat turbulent time, you give us peace. We ask, Heavenly Father, that we can impart patience and love that comes from the heart of Jesus right to the hearts of believers. Impart to us that faith, Lord, so that we might be partakers of it. We might practice it with all that we meet. And every day of our life, we can pursue after that faith that can cast mountains into the sea. Faith that you gave Abraham when in his seed, Isaac, all the nations of the world will be blessed. You asked him to sacrifice him on an altar. And as he continued to do that, you stopped him. And you did bless the earth through his faith. Give us the faith that Moses had to call millions of people out of Egypt to the promised land. Give us the faith Joshua had when he faced walled cities. Help us, Lord, cast these walls down and serve this community with grace and love and peace and joy. Yes, Lord, we ask you impart to us faith in this difficult time for this nation. We're going through an election period, and emotions are rising high. Help us do your will. Help us bring your kingdom on this earth through what you impart in our heart. Give us peace, and I pray, God, you give this community of Bel Aire opportunity and grace and blessing and prosperity. In the name of the one that raised Jesus from the dead, we pray in your name, God. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. Please join me in Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On to item 5, agenda additions. Are there any agenda additions to consider?
It's not an addition, but I was wondering if we need to reorganize something. Should we move item XIG after the executive session in XII?
I agree with you, and I think we can take a motion when we get it done with F.
Okay.
Take a motion for an executive session. Good point. Thank you, Councilmember Welch. Anything else? On to item 6. The consent agenda contains the minutes of the July 2nd regular city council meeting, as well as the minutes of the July 9th special city council meeting. Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. President, I'll motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize. Do we need the mayor or the council president to sign that? Authorize the council president to sign.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Welch and a second by Councilmember Dean. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. It passes 5-0.
On to item 7, discussion and approval of appropriations ordinance. This appropriations ordinance encompasses June 25th through July 8th of 2024 expenses and one payroll cycle. Expenditures amount to nearly $700,000. Of the reported expenses, $31,126.73 are infrastructure costs for new developments. These costs are paid through special assessments. Is there any discussion on the appropriations?
Mr. Council President,
Mr. Dean?
I'll move we approve appropriations ordinance number 24-13.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Schmidt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. On to item 7, city requested appearances. Don't believe we have any city requested appearances, so we'll move on to item 9. I have one speaker card from Mr. Landau.
David Landell, 4743 Kruger. And I wish the mayor was here tonight because a lot of my comments were really meant for him as much as anyone else. But I didn't come to praise Caesar tonight. I came to preach to him. This is one of the most intimidating places to stand. And I'm sure you people don't mean it to be that way, but it is. If you want to feel like a Biden grandchild, unclaimed grandchild at the Biden family reunion, come here and you'll know what he feels like or she feels like. Anyway, I came here. One of the instances of that is when I came here to right before Easter, because the city of Bel Aire was the only city in Sedgwick County that did not allow Christmas or Easter to be mentioned. And nobody said, thank you, get out of here, or whatever. And thankfully, I did receive an award from another place. A guy, one of the council members turned me in for an award for being brave enough to do that. But it's really the mayor should sit up there and thank people for standing up here and presenting their concerns to the city instead of trying to be so intimidating so they won't show up. And when I was on the city council 25 years ago, we had a mayor and administrator that was pretty standard for them to intimidate people so they wouldn't come in and voice their concerns. And when I was on the bench, I felt a bit intimidated myself. It concerned me. So I would say something to the people to make them feel like they came. And later I might even contact them to say, hey, thanks for showing up. Thanks for bringing this to our attention, or this needed to be brought up, or what have you. And I caught hell for that from mayor and the administrator because it wasn't my job. And I realize that, but I think it's important to hear what the citizens have to say. The mayor and the city council is elected by the citizens, and they work for us, and the city staff, they work for us. They're here to do things for our benefit. So I'd like to urge citizens to not be afraid and come up here and voice their concerns. That being said, I'm going to go on with my first concern. When St. Ty was a city manager, he was good in certain areas, but he was poor, I think, at managing city staff. And we got some excellent employees here in Bel Aire, and I'm not even talking about them, but we have some that shirk their responsibility. They fall short of expectations, and I won't mention names, but they acted superior to the average citizen, and that's who they work for. They shouldn't be superior to them, and they should give some assistance if something's wrong. Tell them hey, let's see if we can't get this worked out, and assist them and help them with their problems. And so, but it's the city mayor and the city council's job. It's the city manager's job to manage the city, but the council and the mayor, their job is to oversee and make sure he's doing what he is supposed to do. And if he doesn't, then they should change city managers. Now, that being said, we got a new city manager, and I think we need to give him some time to get his feet wet here and get it figured out. But I think he'll probably do a good job. And on,
Mr. Landau, I forgot to mention the 3-minute.
huh?
I forgot to mention the 3-minute limit.
Okay,
So if you
I'll
could
hurry
wrap up.
here.
Thank you.
I sent a picture to the mayor on weeds over in the drainage ditch in my area, where in Lawn Terrace area. They're 6 feet high. Well, the city code enforcement officer came out and looked at them this morning, and he was very nice, very good. At least when I was there, he was. But he told the homeowners they had to mow that ditch. That ditch drains the Bel Aire recreation area, all of our neighborhood there, everything from 48th Street on down the hill. And it's not been maintained well enough. Now, some of the people on downstream and upstream a little bit have maintained their ditch over the years, and they can mow it. But this guy will end up under his mower someday if he tries to mow that. And while he's there, he also told him, he said, we'll mow it one time, and that's your responsibility. I do not think it's his responsibility. I think it's the city's responsibility to take care of their drainage ditch. And it's really a city problem. Now, when I was on the council, you're sitting here on the bench. You can't see the ditch. You can't see the weeds. You can't see the mosquitoes breeding over there. But I do recommend a little field trip. You don't have to rent a car or an airplane and fly over it. You can just drive over there in your car and take a look at it, because it is a city problem. And
Thank you, Mr. Landau.
other than that, since my 3 minutes is up, I'll stop short and come back when the mayor's here sometime. Thank you.
Thank you. All those comments are appreciated. Thank you very much. Any other citizen concerns? All right, we'll move on to item 10, council member reports. Councilmember Hamburg, would you like to start?
Thank you, Council President. Only thing I was going to mention is that last Wednesday, I attended a tour of the new Wichita Northwest Water Facility treatment plant that's going to go online in the spring. As most residents probably know, or if you don't, we get part of our water from CCUA and part of it from Wichita. It was a very interesting tour, and Mayor Benage and Councilmember Schmitz were also there, and want to thank the Utility Advisory Committee for organizing that, and specifically Mr. Galani. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Welch.
I don't have a report per se, but I would like, in light of events of this last few days, that everybody remember what kind of country this is, and we have different viewpoints, and please be respectful of others' viewpoints. That we do not need violence to solve disagreements. We should be able to sit down and talk about them.
Well put. Thank you. Councilmember Schmitz.
I did also attended the review of the water facility in Wichita, and thought it was a very good tour, excellent. The information, one thing I noticed is it's 120 million gallons per day out of that facility. It's a little bit smaller than what's downtown, but this facility will do 100% either groundwater or 100% surface water, which is a good thing. So I think in general, it's a great facility, and I appreciate everyone's efforts to give us a great tour. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Dean.
Mr. Council President, thank you. I do have a few items to cover. On July 8th, I attended the first WAMPO committee meeting for our consultant selection on the Safe Routes to School program plans. It was very brief. We just generally reviewed the proposals, and we'll be scheduling follow-up interviews with the two consultants. I wanted to thank SRF and Trans Systems. Those are the two engineering consultants that submitted proposals. Thank you for their interest in helping WAMPO and the communities and schools with their safe routes plans. We'll be conducting the interviews, making a selection, but I really do appreciate their interest and their time. I know that doing proposals isn't something they do just free. It takes effort, takes time, takes money. So I appreciate both of those engineering partners. On July 9th, along with Mayor, we both met with two Wichita Public School Board of Education members, Diane Alpert and Hazel Stabler. At their request, the topic was Wichita Public Schools USD 259's facilities master planning that they're they're doing. They were kind of reaching out to us and reaching out to others in the public to get feedback on that. And so we had a good conversation. I know that's not the end of the conversation. We discussed Isley as well as Northeast Magnet and other plans that they may have coming up. It was a good conversation. I look forward to continuing that conversation. I think it's important that as we grow as a community, both our public and our private school partners are growing along with us. So appreciate them and their efforts. Last Saturday on July 13th, I hosted the community walking event that was here in Central Park. There was a smaller group this time. We had 4 of us, but we got out there early to get it done, get some walking and socialization done before it got too hot. And then one thing I wanted to mention, this actually came out today, is there are some upcoming KDOT K254 corridor management plan open houses. I know that's a mouthful. There are actually 3 different locations and 4 different times being offered. The first one is Tuesday, July 30th, which will be at Benton City Hall from 6 to 7 p.m. The next one is Wednesday, July 31st, which will be at the Kansas Highway Patrol Troop F office here in Keachai. That's also from 6 to 7. And then there's 2 times on Thursday, August 1st out in Towanda, one from 11 to 1 and the other from 6 to 7 at the Towanda Community Building. There's information out there on KDOT's site. They've shared it. The intent of the meeting, again, is it's a public open house. It's to kind of share with the public the next steps of the K254 corridor management plan. So if anybody has questions about that, feel free to reach out and we can get you some more information. Thank you.
Thank you, council members. I myself have no report. I've been out of town for a few weeks on personal issues. The mayor had a larger meeting to attend. I look forward to his report next month. So I'll move on to city attorney report.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll give a brief report, please. It's regarding PFAS. Many of you have probably heard of this already. The LKM, the League of Kansas Municipalities, and the Kansas Department of Health and Environment put on some education today about PFAS, the final rule from the EPA, treatment options, the challenges of PFAS waste management. So I thought I would just give a very brief update to the council and yourself, Mr. Council President. Regarding PFAS, just to make sure that everyone understands, these are a series of man-made chemical compounds. They exist in the environment. They're also known as forever chemicals because they are just so resistant to oil, water, extreme temperatures, friction. The EPA decided that these are going to be a group of chemicals that they are going to begin regulating. And that decision came out April 10 of 2024. The 6 chemicals that they are going to regulate are going to have a maximum contaminant level. What does that mean? Well, there are specific final rule requirements, which is public water systems must monitor for those specific PFAS, and everyone has 3 years. Those public water systems have 3 years to complete initial monitoring by 2027, which will be followed by ongoing compliance monitoring. Water systems must also provide the public with information on the levels of any PFAS and their drinking water beginning 2027. Another rule to focus on is 5 years later, public water systems must implement solutions to reduce those PFAS, the ones that they're monitoring, showing if their drinking water levels exceed any MCLGs, which are maximum contaminant levels. And the final prong of this is beginning in 5 years, 2029, public water systems that have PFAS in drinking water, which violates any of those limits, must take action to reduce levels of those PFAS in their drinking water. This is a significant decision from the EPA. I've been asked already by members of the community, where does EPA get their authority to do this? And it is under the Safe Drinking Water Act. That is where that authority comes from. I've also been asked another question from a resident saying that, is this something that Bel Aire has to contribute to? Well, all I will say right now is, just as Councilmember Emily Hamburg said, is that Bel Aire receives water from the city of Wichita, and we also receive water from the CCUA, and those are the public water systems. But if I get any other questions from residents, I like to refer them back to the Environmental Protection Agency so that they can read all of that online. They also have videos and training tools. But I would like to say thank you to LKM and KDHE for putting that together. And that is the extent of my report. Thank you very much, Mr. Council President.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending that and educating us all. City manager report.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Council President. A little shorter one tonight because we got a little bit of agenda, but 53rd Street, we started phase 1 paving today. If you look on the flyer, it's the exact date that we anticipated starting phase 1 paving. So I'm glad to see that that's right on schedule. The microsurfacing of Oliver and some of the neighborhoods there are going to start July 23rd. Excited to hear about that. And Kylie and I and Ann will work together to notify the residents as well as the company that's coming to do it. Community Cleanup Day. Let's see. One more. There you go. Community Cleanup Day is from 9 to 10 on July 27th. That's at Bel Aire Park. That group's been doing pretty good things, going around each park and cleaning up Bel Aire for us and making new friends. It's a great little group. July 27th, there's also a family night at the pool from 6:30 to 8:30. Hot Dogs Pool Party will happen August 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. That's always very popular, so want to get in on that. And then I believe the walk bike event, there'll be one in August, but the date's yet to be determined. So that's all I have for you tonight, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you much. Moving on to item 11, ordinances, resolutions, and final actions. Item A is a consideration of submitting a notice of revenue neutral rate intent form to the Sedgwick County Clerk's Office. As you know, each year, taxing jurisdiction intending to exceed their calculated revenue neutral rate must notify the county clerk's office by July 20th. This deadline gives the county ample time to prepare all revenue neutral rate notices and send them to all property owners in each taxing jurisdiction. The revenue neutral rate intent document does not set the mill levy, but it does set the maximum total mills the city is able to levy for the 2025 budget. The council still has the authority to levy less than the 43 mills proposed. For the 2025 budget, city staff is recommending the revenue neutral rate hearing be held on September 3rd, 2024 at 7 p.m. at Bel Aire City Hall. And I think we have some more berries available for any questions or answers.
Yep. Good evening, Council President and members of council. I think Council President explained it pretty straightforward. This is just an annual step in the budget process that we have to notify the county of our proposed rate or our cap, which is the maximum amount that we can levy for the 25 budget in a timely manner, so they have time to send out all the property tax notices. And those go out in August.
And we just started budgeting, so this is just one of those steps, meaning we're still going to budget in August and September. So
yeah.
I don't want people to think that we finished budgeting.
I still got a couple of workshops or a workshop and a couple of meetings to go before we have our hearing there in September.
But you've done enough of the budget that you're confident the 43 mills will suffice, that we won't need to go any higher because, as you said, we can't go any higher once we send this in.
Correct.
Right. Any other questions, Mr. Smith? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve the notice of revenue neutral rate intent document as presented and authorize the council president to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, second by Mr. Dean. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item B, consideration of a bid for storm sewer infrastructure replacement and repair at Denise Park. 3 companies submitted bids. The corrugated 36-inch stormwater drainage pipes at Denise Park, installed for over 25 years, have deteriorated. This 36-inch corrugated pipe allows stormwater to drain water off the surrounding neighborhoods and exit under Denise Park. Staff recommends the corrugated pipe be upgraded to reinforced concrete pipe to allow longer stability. Our Director of Public Works, Marty McGee, will present the bids and options and answer any questions.
So the 36-inch pipe, as I wrote in the report there, needs to be replaced. We've got the 3 quotes for to do it: UMC, Donlinger, and Apex. Out of the 3, my consideration or my recommendation would be Donlinger, because that seems to be the quickest way to do it. One of the bidders came in with corrugated pipe, which we did not want to use. He told me he could redo his bid proposal with reinforced concrete pipe, but it'd be considerably higher. So I took that one off. I want to take that one off the table and go with that one. Apex can do it 6 to 8 weeks after the council approves it, if they decide to use Apex. I think we need to get it done sooner than that. We have an open ditch out there right now, and we got kids playing on the ditches. We put the fence up. They're taking the fence down. We've put it up 3 times in the last week. It's a safety concern. So that's why I would recommend just going with Donlinger. They say 2 weeks, but after talking to him, he told me he could probably get it done a lot sooner than that and have the material there within a week's time. So I'm not going to hold him to a week's time because he said 2, but that's more than likely what's going to happen. So any questions on that?
Mr. Council President.
Mr. Dean.
Marty, one thing I followed up, I asked you kind of what the condition of the rest of the pipe is. I know at previous meetings we had talked about how that pipe extends under the playground. Can you kind of address that a little bit for everybody?
Yeah, that was my concern too, and I did not have that done until this morning. I called Mayor out. Mayor came through, cambered it for us. The pipe is great. So there's no rust, no holes. So everything from the manhole to the inlet that we're going to, we're going to pull that inlet out, put a new one in, extend 60 feet of pipe, and put a flared end on it. That's what our bid is for right here. So anything from that inlet back to the street is good to go. There's no issues.
So you feel comfortable that one of the concerns I had was, would we be actually solving the problem, or was there more problem? It appears that would fix everything that you can
Yeah,
see.
that would fix everything. There is no more problems. That's why I had them camera it. I think I sent you and Ted the camera footage of it this morning. And I feel comfortable just doing what we're doing right now. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Council
Mr.
President.
Schmitz.
When I looked at the bids, within the Donlinger bid, there was 7,500, I believe, something like that for recovery. But then it says there's not going to be any. They're not really going to put it back or reseed. So can you explain that? And is that going to change that number, or? That was kind of a discrepancy in what I saw in the bid and then what it said in the fine print.
Okay. Yeah, more than likely, Public Works will end up probably, there's a berm over there, so they're not wanting to actually build that whole berm back and everything, which we will probably do. So I believe that's what he's talking about. They don't want to be held responsible for not getting that exactly right, I should say. So, but there is no right or wrong as long as we put a berm back in there that holds the water back. So.
Okay, so you don't have any concerns there?
I don't have any concerns on it now. My biggest concern on this whole project right now is public safety. We have a pipe that's open right now. It's corrugated pipe, and it's rough edged.
Yeah, that's not safe. I
my
agree.
biggest deal right now. So
Okay, thank you.
This is not a big job. I mean, this is just something that needs to be done. That's why it just needs to be approved and done. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Any further
Mr.
questions?
Council President?
Yes, Mrs. Hamblin.
Marty, yeah, I appreciate your assessment that the risk and the ability to get back to using that park. You said it was a short job. How long do they anticipate this job taking?
1 week, 1 to 2 weeks is what they're saying. Most everybody's saying 2 weeks, but more than likely it's going to be 1 week to finish the job.
Okay, and so you're anticipating they might start in 1 week, 2 max, and then be done in a week or 2.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's,
And I guess I missed it
I-
where you didn't say, why is Apex not able to start sooner? Were they consulted with?
I want to address her issue real quick. So no, it's not going to start like next week if we address it today. So like Apex is going to be 6 to 8 weeks from the time of approval. And then Donlinger will start on July 31st. So that's when the start date would be for them. Because it takes amount of time to order the pipe, order the box, and get all that material in. So once the material comes in, that's when they would be able to get the job done a week after that.
So are you saying Donlinger already has the material? Why are they able to do it, get started faster than
He's
Apex?
telling me he thinks he has one box that he can use that's in his shop right now in the yard, and then the pipe is available, readily available. So, and Apex, I don't know. They're saying 6 to 8 weeks. I'm guessing because of that box is what they're going to have it built. So.
Okay, I just wondered if we'd talk to him because you've kind of negotiated timeframes with UMC and Donlinger. So I didn't know what kind of negotiation process we'd gone through with Apex to see.
I talked to them and they said that's all they could give me. They said 6 to 8 weeks from time of approval because of the box needs to be built and we have to go out and have it built. So I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. I mean,
yeah,
you got a time frame.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I motion we accept the bid from Donlinger, I guess, for the storm sewer infrastructure replacement and repair at Denise Park. Oh. I had it on. Okay. I motion to accept the bid from Donlinger Construction in the amount not to exceed $32,812 for storm sewer infrastructure replacement and repair at Denise Park and authorize the council president to sign.
Can I second? I'll second that. So we have a motion by Mr. Schmitz and a second by Mr. David. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Item C, consideration of selecting an owner's rep for Utilities and Public Works Facility Project. PEC Burns and McDonnell and SEH submitted RFQs. The city administrator report explains this in much greater detail, but in brief, the city of Bel Aire is initiating the process to construct a Utilities and Public Works facility within the Sunflower Commerce Park. Staff has issued a request for qualifications, RFQ, to hire an owner's representative who will oversee and ensure the successful completion of this project. We have received responses from 3 experienced candidates. City Manager Ted Hendry is available to any questions or further discussion.
Thank you, Council President. As you know, this project has a lot of moving parts tied to a grant. So when we look at Ann and I's workload, that's simply impossible to keep adding. So what we did is our first step is to do an RFQ for an owner's rep to be our, really to be there every day, be on the ground, and frankly, they'll know a whole lot more than we know about building this type of building. This was sent out to everyone, and we received 3 PEC, Burns and Mac, and SEH. We formed a committee and scored each of the RFQ proposals. Burns and Mac are well known to us, and we currently work with them on pretreatment programs and water and sewer agreements. They had a strong proposal, but ultimately felt PEC edged them out due to their experience in these types of building projects and project teams. SEH, they're building in Sunflower Commerce Park as well right now, and we've been really impressed with them. But we felt PEC edged them out due to their grant management experience when looking at them. So that's why you have before you PEC is our winner, as well as other areas that we scored, including knowledge of Bel Aire, ability to handle the project in-house, experience with public building inspections, project team experience, proposed process, project management, owner's representation experience, staff reporting, financial tracking, construction experience, and local presence. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The floor is open to questions or further discussion.
Mr. Council President,
Mr. Dean.
I did have a question, Ted. I read through the RFP or the RFQ, I guess. Can you kind of share with the public what the timeline on this is? Like how long we're going to have an owner's rep involved for this process with the city?
Sure. So this is it'll be for the duration of the project, but we're really focusing in over the next year, trying to get everything in place over the next year. Right now, I have an RFQ for an architect or an engineer right now. This owner's rep will help us with selecting that, and then maybe some alternative building approaches that can also work with the grant. And that's kind of the right now it's a bid build type project, but and that's the way we're gonna work it. But the owner's rep will be able to circuit some of these log jams that you see, so we can get it moving down the line a lot quicker.
Yep, makes sense. I just wanted to be clear for the public. This is the first step to this project, and we're going to have a lot of other professionals involved, and
Yep.
they will be assisting the city through the process. So thank you.
Correct.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Council President,
Mr. Dean.
I move we accept the recommendation from the committee and the request for qualifications from PEC and authorize staff to negotiate an agreement.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Dean, a second by Mr. Welch. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to item D, consideration of approving change order number 4 from Kansas Paving for work related to stormwater pollution prevention, SWPPP, for the 53rd Street Oliver Woodlawn Paving Project. Next, this change order for SWPPP inspection services for the 53rd Street project, City Engineer Ann Stevens is here to discuss. Now, I'll note that the mayor did have one comment suggesting a checklist be added to prevent any surprises like this in the future, but I'll let Ann Stevens explain further. Thank you.
Sure. So first things first, SWPPP, commonly known as the SWIP, it is required by the state of Kansas to have stormwater inspections done. All of our projects, acre or more, even the smaller ones, have best management practices or erosion control devices in place to help keep the sediment where it started and not travel downstream and get into our waters, fill up lakes, et cetera, et cetera. When we first started this project, there was some questions as far as who's doing the SWIP inspections. It was always my intent to have the inspection for this project proceed very similar to a KDOT style project, since it is a larger major road. That was always my intent. The experience that I have with KDOT projects is Woodlawn. I knew that Garver, our construction inspector for Woodlawn, was present at all the inspections, so I incorrectly assumed that it was a construction inspector that was supposed to perform these inspections. I have since been educated, and as the mayor noted, that is not something that I will be forgetting in the future, that it is actually the contractor who hires the inspections out. The construction inspection firm is just present at all of the inspections. So that was my mistake, my error, and coming before you tonight with the change order to rectify that mistake. Had I been aware of things in the future, you would have seen this not as a change order, but included in the original bid. So that's what this is all about. That's a little bit of a summary of what's going on and how we got here.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Council President.
Mr. Dean?
And I wouldn't beat yourself up too much. I've seen this done both ways. I've seen contractors do it. I've seen inspection teams do it. It's really just a matter of we have to do it. It's got to be in somebody's contract. So I appreciate we caught it and that we're going to do it so that we're in compliance and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So, I mean, city owners have done it. I've seen it done by owners on projects, speaking from experience on projects that I've been on. So, but I appreciate you explaining it and making sure that we know we're crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a great clarification. And anyway, now we're learning. Anything else before any other discussion? If none, I'll entertain a motion. In fact, I think I'll make a motion to accept change order number 4 from Kansas Paving for the 53rd Street to Oliver to Woodlawn paving project in the amount not to exceed $16,387.50 and authorize the mayor to sign this.
I'll second.
Motion for Mr. Davis, second for Mr. Dean. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0, if I heard correctly. Moving on to item E, consideration of a street right-of-way dedication for Reserve C, Chapel Landing, 3rd, Bel Aire, Sedgwick County, Kansas. During the initial platting of Chapel Landing 3rd, it was intended to have one main entrance and one emergency access only entrance. During the 53rd Street construction project, several residents approached the city asking if the eastern entry to the Chapel Landing 3rd subdivision, Colburn Street, could be widened to match the rest of the street. The city reached out to the developer, and they were agreeable to deeding the reserve to the city for use as permanent street right-of-way. The street right-of-way dedication now comes before the council for consideration, and our city engineer is still available for questions.
So on the map on the screen, you can see kind of the reddish area. That is the area that was originally platted as a reserve. It was never platted for access. So that is why we have this before you today. The developer of the property is granting that reserve to the city for a public right-of-way use. It's still any easements that are over there, any utilities are still allowed to be in that area. It's just basically we're accepting it as street right-of-way, which probably should have been done to begin with, but that's not how they had originally presented and requested.
So if we do this, are we planning on putting a temporary entrance in there or a permanent entrance, or what's the benefit to the city?
There is currently a permanent entrance there. It is I believe, a concrete entrance. So we're taking I believe it's 10 feet. It's either 10 feet or 20 feet. We're taking on that additional responsibility, which technically we've been taking care of anyway. So this is really more of a formality than anything else.
Okay, so it's already paved. We're just saying we're going to be responsible for maintaining it.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Mr. Council President.
Mr. Dean?
And I was actually kind of shocked when I read, and it is kind of a unique situation. I get it, but I was kind of shocked that this was ever approved this way because I know the fire department does not like having one in, one out with any residential of any size, which there's a lot of residential packed in there. So I'm kind of shocked that it ever got approved with the access requirements at the fire department. But
yeah, the original intent was for emergency access. There was going to be a gate over there that the fire department has a key to.
Gotcha.
So if they ever needed to get in that area, they could.
Right.
The developer just never put a gate there, and it's always been open. Residents have been using that since the development started. So yeah, it's just really just formalizing what's there now.
Would you say this is abnormal and we would probably not be seeing a continuation of trying to put in an entrance like this going forward as a best practice?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the street right-of-way dedication for Reserve C, Chapel Landing 3rd, Bel Aire, Sedgwick County, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, second by Mr. Schmitz. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Brings us to item F, consideration of adopting updates to the Personnel Policy Manual. We discussed this at the July workshop. Staff presented several changes to the policy manual in preparation for the payroll system upgrade. After receiving input from the City Council at the workshop, the changes were summarized and will be presented here to the council. Staff recommends approving the changes to provide guidance for employees and the system developers with a clear roadmap for implementation. Director of HR, Deb Appel, is here to discuss the changes.
Good evening. I'm back. I'll try to keep it under 15 minutes this time. We didn't do very well last time, but we'll do better this evening. So in consideration of your time, is there any particular questions that you have on the changes that we have now presented to you? If not, I can go through a quick overview of all the changes that we've made. But I wanted to see if you just had any particular questions first or concerns.
I've got several.
Go ahead,
I
Council.
don't know if somebody else wants to go first, but we talked about keeping the current schedule and extending it, and that is not what is being proposed here tonight for vacation leave.
Ted, you had
So we kind of ended on Valley Center's schedule. That was my recollection, and that's what we put in the proposal and which was extending it, and unless that was kind of the consensus, but you're welcome to.
I don't remember that, and I know Tyler was the other person that was talking about this. What we were talking about was using the bottom part of the Valley Center schedule to extend our current schedule, not to adopt the Valley Center schedule.
And if I remember right, there wasn't too much differences in the first 12 years. Oh, here's clicker. Sorry.
That's quite a bit of difference.
Deb might have it. There you go.
You're looking at an extra day and a half for the first year.
Okay.
Then you're looking at, what is that, 3 days, 3.5 days for 1 to 5 years? I consider that a substantial change.
So for those 0 to 1, we kept it at the 96 that we had before. 1 to 5, you're correct. We did have the small bump to the 120.
I guess you did do it, didn't you, Deb? Okay.
And I may not earn a lot of friends, but I'm not sure we need to do this at all, because our main competition is Wichita, and they do not give anywhere near this number of vacation days.
I don't see what you mean. The main competition's Wichita. I have all my employees from other small cities around the area.
Okay, but if somebody's going to poach an employee from here, it's going to be Wichita.
I
And we're
would,
not going to pull too
No,
many employees from
it's
someplace
small
else.
cities.
I would say the ones that have left as of late have not gone to Wichita. They've gone to other neighboring communities that we were in comparison with. We're not trying to slide something in front of you. We are looking at communities the same size. We were actually just trying to come from a fair point of looking at, like I said, Derby, and we talked about this in Andover and Valley Center, and we we just felt that those
Answer me
were.
this then. How much difference does a clerk working for Bel Aire make than a clerk working for Coke?
Again, that's a totally different type of comparison.
It's a different company, but they're still sitting there doing computer entry, answering the phone. What specialized skill do they have because they're working for Bel Aire that they're not going to have working someplace else?
It's two completely different industries. I guess a customer service clerk at Coke.
That's like saying aircraft is different than petroleum. Okay. Yes, they are, but a clerk working at either of those companies has the same basic skill set.
I can agree with about 70% of the skill sets, yes, but that extra 30 tends to be a little different because you come from a lot of different angles that our clerks handle. However, I'm not sure where you're going with your question as far as, are we overcompensating our employees or undercompensating compared to Coke?
I believe I don't know what Cokes are. I couldn't find it, but I believe we're being extremely generous. I would have died for this kind of vacation pay when I was working in the sector, when I actually had a job. Nobody gave this generous of a package. And this just is a huge thing to me. And it really bothers me that we're allowing them to carry so much over. And then another thing that bothers me is we are taking benefits away from part-time people, it looks like. I don't understand that. We wanted to take away vacation pay, and that's back in, but we've not allowing them any sick time either.
And again, I mean, and we would.
And I don't know what we're doing with holidays. I didn't see anything in there about what holidays they get, whether they get paid or not.
Yeah, part-time staff still keep their 4 hours of holiday. That's what they receive right now is 4 hours of holiday, and they keep that 4 hours of holiday. We did not make any changes to that.
Okay, well, I'm not in favor of making this change at this point in time. I also believe we should negotiate this as part of the total pay package. We're increasing our budget dollars here without discussing the budget impact.
So essentially you're talking about the max, if someone retires or leaves, budget impact, because we budget for 2,050 hours of each employee. So it's either vacation or they're here. So they're going to get paid the same, taking vacation or not. They're not getting on top of their salary unless they leave or retire.
If you don't take it in the year you earn it, then you're getting it on top of your salary.
It's carried over to, I mean.
We don't have a payout. It's not a payout.
The payout.
If the employee works the year and they take, for example, they get 2 hours of vacation and they take that during the year, then we pay them their base salary that year.
Their base.
If they carry that whole 2 weeks over, we pay them their base salary plus 2 weeks because they redeem that 2 weeks later.
That's why you have maximums.
The maximum doesn't matter. We're still paying them more than we would have paid them the other way.
I mean, the paycheck is still the same, whether you get the 2 hours of vacation in year one, or you use that 2 hours vacation, you carry it over and use it in year two.
You're not seeing my point
Yeah,
at all.
I'm afraid that I'm not.
If I earn $10,000 a year and I get 2 weeks of vacation out of that, and my 2 weeks of vacation is worth $200. If I take that 2 weeks of vacation during the year, my total compensation is $10,000. But if I don't take that vacation and I quit the day after, which makes me the plus 1 year and I can carry everything over, I now get paid $10,000 plus $200.
200 at the end of your termination.
But so your max carryout is
At my termination, that's okay. And that's my example. I am saying if I quit right then, I get paid $10,200 and I only worked 1 year.
So what do you, I mean, yes, that's correct. And we have a liability report we run at the end of every year to find out how much vacation accrual liability we have, and we determine what that number is.
So my point was that by giving more and more days, we are increasing that liability.
We are.
And I keep hearing, no, we're not. We're just paying them the regular pay.
No, I think the way the phrasing is that we're paying them more in 1 year. Eventually we will if they terminate or retire.
Well, they're eventually going to terminate somehow.
Correct. So, and we've had, what's our maximum right now? 224 right now. And the maximum you can accrue after 20 years on this existing schedule is 224. So if you're concerned with paying a 20-year employee 224 hours, or over 224 hours, that would be the only difference we're proposing tonight.
Okay, I'm going to throw something else out here, slightly different. We currently are giving the first year employee 12 days of vacation, 12 holidays. That's 24 days. That's more than one working month that we're giving them time off. That just seems way too generous to me.
I think that's also, again, we're looking at standards of other cities. The other thing too is when someone is leaving another place of employment and coming here, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, and here we hit 4th of July, the other option is asking them to take a short paycheck if we don't give them holiday pay.
No, I'm just saying how many days we're giving them. I'm not saying we should short them at all.
So why did we choose Valley Center?
We had actually looked at several different ones. This was kind of the meat in the middle. This wasn't the Cadillac of them all, but it wasn't the lowest of them all.
Okay. Any other questions? Or we'll let you, sorry, you were going to go through the presentation.
Well, I mean,
a little
I'd be
bit.
glad to, but if there's just there's particular questions that you have, I'd be glad to spend my time there as well. It's however you would like to go over this information.
I know there was some email discussion about the parsing of the vacation sick leave, the
Sure.
15
So
minutes.
I'd be glad to answer that. So our timekeeping is actually in 15-minute increments when we're clocking in and clocking out and managing our time. We report our time worked in 15-minute increments. So, and then every staff schedule has a different schedule. Some will work a standard 8-hour, but we have several who work like 8.75 hours. You know how city halls, we close early on Friday, a little bit longer Monday through Thursday. So they're working 8.75 hours. So when someone is going to be gone for a day, partial day, to make up that difference to get to that 40 hours, it's not always as simple as a rounded hour or a half hour. So that's why it's been 15-minute increments. That's actually how we keep our time right now. And that is how we have been using our vacation and our sick. It's just a matter of making the personnel policy match our current payroll processes.
So how much do we pay on a holiday? Do we pay an 8-hour holiday?
8 hours.
Okay. And that was another thing I hadn't brought up yet is the floating personal holiday. I don't think that should be taken in 15-minute increments. I think that should be a full day.
And I don't have a problem with that. The wording in the past had just said it should be treated like a vacation day. And so that's why we changed it to reflect the verbiage in the personnel policy.
Vacation day and not a personal floating holiday.
Yeah. And like I said, that's fine. It's however you want to.
I'd rather they had the one extra holiday because the thing that came up during the discussion at the workshop was whether or not they're actually taking their time. And I want them to take the time. I want them to have a relief from work. I don't want somebody working every possible hour they can.
Any other questions?
Deb, I just wanted to say, I feel like the chart is in line with some of what we spoke about. I think extending it is definitely a thing that I think a lot of our employees would appreciate. We do have a lot of long tenured employees, and I certainly see this as a retention thing, but it's also they earned it, right? Like we're trying to retain people and appreciate them. And if they've stayed longer, to me, they've earned more time off. I think that's how it should work. As far as the example that John gave, I don't know that we can compare too much to previous generations. I think things are changing. So some of what you're having to deal with is adapt to what some new employee generations are maybe valuing time and want to take it off. That's the tough part, right? With working lean, trying to find the time to actually be able to give it to them, which I also would encourage. So I'm going to support this. I think it's in line. It sounds like you guys did a great job of comparing to other cities that are similar to us. And so I think it's a good step forward for us to take care of our employees. So thank you for your time on it.
Thank you.
Mr. Council President?
Mr. Schmitz.
Yeah, I believe I suggested we do the Valley Center model because it seemed to me that it was not as over the top as Andover was. And it just seemed like for the longer term employees, it seemed like there's a few extra hours there toward the bottom. And so I thought this was a better match of what I'm more used to. And so I just thought what we would do here looked like a reasonable approach. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hamburger, did you have your mic off or?
Yeah, I just wanted to just make two comments. First one's more of a question. I'm not an expert on, public and private pay, but just generalities I've heard is you don't get paid as well in government work. So maybe some of the way you can help with that competition is maybe have a little bit more generous leave policy. And Councilmember Dean already touched on it, but when you think about the cost of turnover and from a retention standpoint, if our problem is our liability increases with longer term employees, that to me is a bit of a happy problem. So, but if Ted could comment maybe on that generality being true or not, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
I want to address that. I think it's a fallacy that public employees don't get paid as well as private sector employees. In fact, there are things, if you go out there and look, that say that, I'm not sure what the relationship is, how big a percentage, but most government employees get paid better than the private sector.
Thank you. Councilmember Hamburger, your question was about the liability, right? You wanted Mr. Henry to address that a little further?
No, it was just more about the generality of, the trade-off between maybe as a general rule, not in every case, government employees don't get paid as much. And this is one of the ways that, if you have a more generous leave policy, way to help balance out that attractiveness.
Yeah, and the hard part is I've been doing the hiring and firing for 8 years, and there's not exactly a line out the door every time we post something. So I mean, John, if you want to announce that, meaning like we need to broadcast if we are getting paid more because the public doesn't know.
I don't think there's a line out anybody's door.
And that's been the issue with us is the retention side and then the hiring side. I will say Bel Aire is different in that, and I know Ty was really good at showing this, but comparable to other cities our size, the amount of staff we have versus the other cities is about 20% less, if not more. So we ask a lot of our employees a lot more. That I feel that's the way it should be. I think that's the way we've been running this place for a long time. Is we're gonna give you a reasonable pay with benefits and make you work harder for your money than just a standard abnormal or normal job. And I think everybody's bought into that. And I think this just propels it and puts kind of our steps our game up just a little bit as we go into this new generation of employees who actually do value a lot of this stuff, look more than just money, but pension system and then the time off.
Well, I hope people remember that in the past, I have been an advocate for our employees to get better wages, to get increases. I'm not.
No.
I know people will be upset with me tonight, but I just view this different.
Mr. Council President,
Mr. Dean.
I move we adopt the personnel policy manual as presented.
And that's a question I'd like to have, but go ahead. If anybody wants to second it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Second.
Okay, then my comment to that is I did not read the entire personnel policy because we said we were only changing one section. So I don't want to adopt the entire personnel policy as presented.
Can you comment on that?
Sure. So all we're doing here is we're revising just those two, just section 2 and section 3. I just thought in fairness, I also want to put it within the personnel policy itself. So when an employee starts or wants to grab the employee handbook, that everything is in one place. Otherwise, we'd be redacting these sections out of the existing and then having a second add-on. So it was just purely for trying to manage our documents and know where everything's at.
Okay, City Attorney, can we not just amend one section of the document and reprint the?
Maria, the way the motion I read is updates to the personnel policy. So I feel that that's covering that, but that's just my opinion
Well, we haven't specified what those updates are.
as presented.
There's no presentation of what the updates are. There's a brand new policy.
In order to provide clarity, a motion could be made, a substitute motion about, and I think what Ms. Appel said is it's section 2 and then section 3. Those are the only two sections. So the motion could be, a substitute motion could be, motion to adopt the personnel policy manual updates regarding section 2 and section 3 as presented tonight.
Mr. Dean, are you good with your original motion, or would you like?
I can amend my original motion, or do I need to make a new motion?
You can go ahead and amend. You can amend,
Okay.
Councilmember Dean.
I'll go ahead and amend the motion to read consideration of adopting updates to the personnel policy manual sections 2 and 3 as presented tonight.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dean, and a second from Councilmember Hamburg. Is there any further discussion? In that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. Before moving on to
I just
item
wanted to say,
G.
if I could, I just want
Oh,
to say thank you
sorry.
very much for the consideration. I know that the staff here at City of Bel Air very much appreciates that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before moving on to item G, I'd like to request a motion to go into executive session.
Do we know how much time we need? 30. Mr. Council President,
Mr. Dean.
I move we recess into executive session to discuss CCA contract negotiations pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for legal consultation with the city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Invite the city manager, city attorney, and Justin Smith. The meeting will be for a period of 30 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in council chambers at 8:38 p.m.
I'll second. Mr. David, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes Council is returning to session. No binding action was taken. And I believe we need an extension.
Mr. Council President, I move to extend the executive session for 15 minutes and resume in city council chambers at 8:55.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, second by Mr. Dean. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We are in executive session. Council is back in session. No binding action was taken. Moving on to item G, consideration of a service agreement with the Chisholm Creek Utility Authority, CCUA, concerning a cost of service methodology for water and wastewater. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the sixth supplemental service agreement with Chisholm Creek Utility Authority and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second. I have a motion from Mr. Welch and a second from Mr. David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to item 13, discussion and future issues. Do we have any discussion?
I assume we're going to be talking about the budget more.
Yeah, so we get 2 weeks of no meeting, which I'm going to use very wisely, and then we'll come back August 6th with the regular meeting, and then budget workshop and the second Tuesday in August.
Oh, and we've got a vote coming up real soon, correct, on the city ordinance,
August 6th.
August 6th.
I assume that'll be after our August meeting, so.
Is that right?
Same day.
The same day?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we won't know when we have the meeting.
Any other discussion or future topics, future issues?
Mr. Council President,
Mr. Dean?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Dean, second by Mr. Welch. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you all.